All right, good. All right, thanks for having me. Last time I did this, it was in person, so it was a long time ago, and it's easier to read the room because you could see the people that are there. So if anybody's got questions, just butt in, no problem, and ask me a question if you need or want. And let me share my desktop. Just a minute here. All right. So I entitled this "Cancer Support for Your Patients," and it's something that's been coming up lately. It's sort of a little hobby that I've gotten into, and I started to develop some ideas behind cancer support for your patients. Um, and we'll go into that. There's no conflict of interest on for me on this. So the big deal on this is you've probably seen it with your patients, and the feeling that you get is when a patient gets a cancer diagnosis, their life sort of spins out of control, and the snowball of the medical system starts to swing into action, and everything that they do, it's like every step is taken care of for them, and they feel that they don't really have any more control of their life. And that's the big deal of what happens with a cancer diagnosis is the patient feels that they lose control of their life. System takes over. And so what I want to present in this talk is for for you and for your patients that there are ways that the patient can take back control of their life, and there's ways that you can also help them with not very difficult things to do that will help them to take back and control their life so that they're just not a passive person with things being done to them. They can actually look at what's going on with them and then decide, oh, no, no, I want to do something about this. And I'm going to show you and tell you exactly what you can tell them to do. Um, Show them the presentation if you want, and they can actually start doing things in a positive way that helps them to take back control of their health. So there's going to be four goals that I'm going to talk about throughout this lecture. And these are things that the patients can do for themselves. Not very difficult. They're really easy to do, um, simple to understand. And being medical people, you'll catch on to this real quick, and it'll be easy for you to explain it to the patients. But the first goal is to create an inhospitable environment for the cancer cells to live in. So we want to make it so the cancer cells sort of take on their own life, but we want to create an environment that makes it more difficult for that cancer cell to survive. Secondly, is we want to restore healthy mitochondrial function to give the cells more energy to correct the abnormalities. It seems that to some extent, cancer is a result of mitochondrial dysfunction. That's not mitochondrial disease, but dysfunction. And so I will talk about that some more, but then give you some ideas on what to do for the patient to help them restore that mitochondrial function. The third goal is to help the patient boost their immune system, because now that you've created an inhospitable environment for these cancer cells to live in, and now you're giving the cells more energy to actually correct the abnormalities, your immune system, the patient's immune system can come through there and now start to perform the job it's supposed to do as far as killing the cancer cells and getting rid of them. And the fourth goal is to actually kill the cancer cells. So let's start with goal one. So the first thing is to starve the cancer cells. And by doing that, you create an inhospitable environment for them to live in. So we want to make sure that these cancer cells have as little ability to sustain their environment and to sustain themselves. And one key factor of doing this is a low sugar, low carb diet. And the reason why is because cancer cells are exclusively dependent on sugar for metabolism and growth. That's why, that's why the low carb diet. the cancer cells are stuck in the Krebs cycle for energy. The Krebs cycle is strictly dependent on glucose. There's no oxygen involved. So if you deny them the sugar, they become more fragile. They have a hard, it's again creating this inhospitable environment that the cancer cells can't live in because now you're basically starving them. The other thing that happens is a low carb diet also reduces insulin production. So when you eat a carb, such as a potato or bread or cereal, rice, any of those white sugars that are basically long chains of sugar, right? They're long chains of glucose. So you absorb them and your body starts in the intestines, your intestines immediately start chopping them up. And then what happens is you get this spike in sugar in the blood. And what the body naturally does is it chases the sugar up with insulin production. And so the insulin spikes up with it. But the problem with insulin is it's an anabolic hormone. So as an anabolic hormone, it causes things to grow. And cancer cells are intimately in need of insulin for stimulation to grow. So not only by doing a low carb, low sugar diet, are you not only starving the cancer cells, but you're also depriving them of the stimulation that they need to actually grow. So people will ask me, well, what about eating fruits and things like that? And I'll go into a diet a little below this, but fruits are different because when you have a fruit, the such as an apple, the carbs are locked into the fiber of that apple. And so to get the carbs out, you actually have to chew the apple. Then when it gets into your stomach, you have to grind it up more. And then the body will start to absorb the sugar slowly. So you don't get this spike in sugar that you get when you eat a high carb starch. So the lower carb fruits and vegetables are okay to eat as far as sugars. So you get this slowly, gradually increasing sugar as you eat an apple, and the insulin doesn't spike up. So again, you don't get this spike in insulin that the cancer cells need to stimulate their growth. So in the different cancer conferences that I've been to, it's been very interesting because the one gentleman who's been doing it for 30 plus years, he says that what's really an interesting factor is in all types of cancer treatment regimens, and this goes from people doing nothing to people doing completely natural to completely standard of care to a combination of standard of care natural. In all of these regimens, the patients that do a low carb diet all have better outcomes. So it's very critical. It's one of the most important goals that you can help your patient to achieve. And again, it's not something that's technically complex. It's a matter of talking to them about their nutritional routine. Now, typically, what you can tell them is something along the lines of a ketogenic diet. And a ketogenic diet is basically fat and protein. It's not that easy to sustain it, but someone who's got a cancer diagnosis gets highly motivated to do whatever they can. And they'll be looking at you saying, what can I do proactively to take care of this and take control of my health? And the number one thing that they can do is a type of diet that's low carb or ketogenic. And if you say ketogenic diet, most people are well aware of it, or a lot of people are well aware of it. It's easy to go online and type in ketogenic diet and get a million of them. But then people will ask me, well, what about a low carb diet? And that I tell people to max out at 21 grams of carbs a day. It's not a lot. It's about if you're eating 3 meals a day, it's about 7 grams of carbs per meal. That generally gives people the amount of carbs that they feel that they are comfortable with eating. And it gives them, so they can sort of maintain a diet that they have in the past. But it's drastically reduced carbs and basically no starches. So I tell them no white foods, no breads, pastas, cereals, rice, or pasta. I said pasta twice, but um, potatoes. So those starches are really what we want people to stay away from, and of course candies and the sugar, the high sugar foods like that. So you're talking about low carb fruits and vegetables. So you got to be careful of the vegetables like cauliflower, high in carbs, potatoes, high in carbs. Um, but if you go with the low carb squashes like a spaghetti squash or the leafy vegetables along those lines, those are good. And the fruits, apples are usually low in carbs and strawberries, and people can measure out what they to get that 21 grams of carbs per day. And that's what I try to get the patients to max out at. So now goal two. So we want to restore mitochondrial, we want to restore a healthy mitochondrial function because energy production is needed to maintain a healthy state and is mostly done by the mitochondria. So this is really critical because I feel that a lot of the cancer problems is a dysfunctional mitochondria. And we'll get to that in a minute. But why is the energy important in the cells and why do we need the mitochondria to make as much energy as possible? So without the mitochondria functioning properly, there are multiple cellular dysfunctions that occur, and these are just a few. So the energy, the ATP that's produced in the cell is needed to maintain the cell membrane integrity. Now, why do you want to maintain the cell membrane integrity? Because that cell membrane is the barrier between the inside and the outside of the cell. That cell membrane is what transports nutrients in and what transports toxins out. So if you don't have an intact cell membrane that's functioning properly, then you're not going to have a, barrier that's properly um, bringing in nutrients and getting rid of toxins and creating the gradients that you need for the sodium to come in, the potassium to go out, the calcium to come in, the magnesium to go out, or whichever direction those are going. Without those gradients, then you're not going to have a properly functioning cell. It's going to be dysfunctional. So another big issue that the energy is needed is to detox the cell. If you've got all this metabolic activity going on within the cell, you're creating a ton of antioxidants. And if the mitochondria is not making enough energy, then the antioxidants and the toxins are building up within the cells. And if you don't have a proper cell membrane integrity, then the cell is not able to expel all those toxins and the cell becomes a toxic waste pool. And then it becomes highly dysfunctional and then starts to become cancerous. So what else does it do? It makes enzymes and other proteins for cellular function. Again, maintaining those internal cellular functions. And then the fourth thing is the mitochondria and the energy that it makes, the ATP, is directly needed to maintain a healthy DNA, to keep the DNA wrapped up or unwrapped, or the proper opening genes up or closing them down. If you don't have the proper amount of ATP or enough of it, then that DNA is going to become unhealthy. It may become unwrapped. It may not be able to be repaired properly, and therefore you get a problem genome, and that again doesn't help with the cancer situation. So what are the sources? This is really critical, and this is why the mitochondria are super important for energy production within a cell. So there's two processes that make ATP within the cell. One is outside the mitochondria and one is inside the mitochondria. So one of them is the Krebs cycle. Now, the Krebs cycle, which again, at the beginning of the lecture, I said the cancer cells are stuck in the Krebs cycle. They do not use oxygen. So the Krebs cycle is very low yield. It only, if you give the, so basically you take a glucose molecule and you run it through the Krebs cycle and you only get 2 ATP molecules per glucose. All right. This is done outside the mitochondria and it's in the cytoplasm. It's anaerobic. It only uses sugar. There's no oxygen. Again, the cancer cells are stuck in the Krebs cycle. And this is why they need so much sugar to survive. Now, the second cycle, not the cycle, but the second process that yields ATP is oxidation along the electron transport chain within the mitochondria. Now, this is a very high yield process, and this adds 30 ATP molecules per glucose. So if you have a normally functioning mitochondria along with the Krebs cycle, you're going to get 32 ATP per glucose. Now, when the mitochondria become dysfunctional because of all the toxins and all, mitochondria have a cell membrane also. So they need the ATP to maintain that cell membrane, because that cell membrane is where the electron transport occurs and where the different transport proteins are functioning to bring molecules into the mitochondria and take them out, the antioxidant, the oxidation products. You want to get them out of mitochondria. If that mitochondrial membrane is dysfunctional, then you're going to have a mitochondria that's not functioning as well. So now you've gone, so with the two process between the Krebs cycle and oxidation cycle, or the oxidation process, you get 32 ATP. With the Krebs cycle alone, which is what the cancer cells are strictly stuck in, you only get 2 ATP. So now you can see why the cancer cells are burning glucose, and they absolutely need glucose. And when you don't ingest glucose, you starve the cancer cells. And that's creating that inhospitable environment that we want to create, so that we basically make it difficult for the cancer cells to live. All right. Let's see. All right, again, this is the Warburg effect, and I put that down there so people can look it up. And this is where the cancer cells are stuck in the just use anaerobic cycling for energy production. Let's see. Okay, so cancer. So I think cancer isn't, to some extent, a disease of mitochondrial dysfunction. I put a few references down below that talk about mitochondrial disorders and cancers, and mitochondrial dysfunction and cancer connection. A lot of these things, you just type into PubMed mitochondrial dysfunction and cancer, and 300 or 400 articles will come up. So if a cell doesn't have enough ATP internally, which it doesn't if the mitochondria are not working, then it's not going to be able to detox. The cell membrane falters, and it can't import products to process, and it can't get rid of the metabolites or the oxidation products, and it becomes a toxic cesspool. Then in the production of enzymes, I mean, so enzymes and vitamins, they're all consumables. And what that means is they're not, maybe people have this concept that an enzyme is made once and it's there for the life of the cell. And that is not the case. It's a consumable along with vitamins. So what happens is the enzymes over time become deformed, and the vitamins become deformed. And the enzyme, therefore, when it used to work at 100% capacity, now only works at 25% capacity. And the cell says, "Oh, we got to get rid of this enzyme." And there's processes in the cell that break the enzymes apart and get rid of the vitamins, and they rebuild new enzymes. But if you don't have the energy to do that in the form of ATP, then you're going to have a lot of old non-functioning enzymes, and if you don't have cell membrane that can import and transport vitamins, and you're going to have a lot of beat up vitamins that aren't going to be functioning very well. And there goes the cell's health even more. And then, of course, the maintenance of DNA is highly at risk, because you need the ATP to unwrap the DNA, wrap it back up, run the what are they, the ribosomes over the RNA to over the DNA to make RNA, and then you make the enzymes. I mean, it's a very complex thing, and it all revolves around needing energy. And that's just a few of the issues of mitochondrial dysfunction. So again, mitochondrial repair is critical to if you improve the mitochondrial dysfunction, you can help to restore cell health, and that helps reverse the above dysfunctions. All right. All right, so goal 3, to boost the immune system. So now we've gone through starving the cells, repairing the mitochondria so the cells can make energy and correct any imbalances and problems that are going on within the cells. And now we want to boost the patient's immune system. And there's several ways of doing this. One of the very first things I tell the patient is they need very high doses of vitamin D, 10 to 15,000 units a day. That's not excessive. If a patient takes 5,000 units, they get their vitamin D up to about 50. If they take 10,000 units, it gets up to about 70 to 80. And if they take 15,000 units, it gets above 100. And that's not toxic. Um, but vitamin D is critically important for helping the immune system to do its job. There's immune boosting mushrooms that people can take. Those are highly effective. Um, there's a company called Ohm up in Carlsbad that has they've got immune boosting products. I often suggest those for people. Um, but the one basic thing that I really, really harp on people is, and this is all basics. Again, this lecture is for the practitioner. There's not a lot of highly technical things that you have to help these patients with. It's just getting back to the basics of health. Get their, like, how do they get into a cancer situation? A lot of times is because their health is so far out of whack. So now what are those basics? I call them the foundation of health. And I call them the foundation of health because it's sort of like if you build a house or you build a building, you have to have a foundation that's strong, and supportive to the structure that you're putting on top. And so what's happened to a lot of these patients is their foundation has become poor, and their health is the structure that's being put on top, and the foundation is rickety and their health is falling apart. So what are the things that you can do to rebuild that foundation of their health? And these are simple things that they can do at home. They don't need a fancy machine for it. There's no high tech stuff here. It's just get down to the basics of and it's what osteopaths learn in school. It's like the holistic idea of the holistic health for the patient. You want them to eat well. So basically, if they can, organic. Stay away from junk food. Um, when they eat the meats, stay away from meats that have a lot of the hormones and antibiotics and different stuff that's put in the meats now. Again, the low carb, very, very low sugar diet is super beneficial. We want them to hydrate, because if they don't hydrate, so hydration is needed for the cells to detox. You got to run the water through the cells so that they can get out the toxins. Again, that's that whole cell membrane problem. So you got to, if you want to get the toxins out, they have to be exchanged with things. And a lot of that's involved with hydration. Then you got to run the products through the liver and the kidneys. And if the patient's not hydrated, then it doesn't work well. They also have to eliminate well, which means they should have normal bowel movements, good kidney function. That's where that's how the toxins get out of the body, right? Exercise doesn't have to be a lot. I tell the patient, look, if you just walk 20 to 30 minutes a day, that's good. And even so, basically, a lot of these patients are can be sick, and maybe they can't really walk much at all. But the idea is you don't if when you're at home, get up and walk to the kitchen instead of just once a day, maybe 2 or 3 or 4 times a day. Grab a glass of water, drink the water, get up and walk to the bathroom. Next thing, get out and walk outside. Small baby steps, right? Because maybe they can't do 20 or 30 minutes. A lot of these people are highly motivated to, and they'll get out and do a lot. But if they can't because they're really ill, then you go on to start them like, look, you don't need to get out and run a marathon. You don't need to walk around the block. Just start by walk into your backyard. Then walk back in the house, sit down, relax. Later in the day, do the same thing. But the key that this does is it oxygenates. And the cancer cells do not like oxygen. So the more that you oxygenate the body, the more that it helps to create that inhospitable environment for the cancer. Okay. Get outside and get sunlight. Sunlight creates more vitamin D, gets the patients oxygenating. It just kind of changes their attitude on life, I think. Very important. And sleeping is super critical. That needs to be at least 8 hours. It can be more than that even, but minimum of 8 hours of sleep at night is highly critical. That's when the body repairs. That's when you shut down, and then the body's internal systems can start to do their thing and repair themselves. Very, very important. Um, let's see, de-stressing. Yeah, I can't emphasize that enough. Stressful environments create a lot of stressful hormones. They increase a lot of cortisol. Cortisol drives up the sugar initially. It can initially drive down the immune system. Then over time, stress continues to hammer away at the immune system so that the immune system is highly dysfunctional, and then it doesn't. So basically what happens, everybody's creating cancer cells on a daily basis. I don't know, 50 or 100, who knows, but their immune system is constantly surveilling the body and going on and cleaning these things out. When people are in stressful environments and they're having these very high adrenal hormones that are being created, their immune systems are being dampened down, and they have a highly um, toxic and a highly hyperactive immune system that is going crazy, but it doesn't have any one specific site that it's going to. And therefore, a cancer cell can kind of hide away and grow, and then it becomes a big nodule, and then it's on its way. So de-stressing is super important to help the immune system to surveil the cancer and get rid of it. Um, Detoxing the patient. So let's talk about detoxing the patient's environment. That's a very important thing. Um, the so that goes down to like filtering water. All right. A lot of the water that people drink could have heavy metals in it, could have different toxins in it. Getting some type of filtering system in the house is super important. If they live in a house that has a lot of mold in it, they got to get out of that house. Um, Toxic air, whatever they can do to detox the environment is very important to do. And cleaning up the spike protein, that's very important. If you think the patient has a lot of spike protein, then nattokinase has been used to clean out the spike protein that's circulating in people's bodies. Okay. So now this is the big thing again. Really, really very, I can't stress this enough. Patients that get a cancer diagnosis, their life is now turned upside down. Their life is spinning out of control. The medical system takes over, and they're coming to you and saying, what can I do? Or maybe they're not saying that because they just don't know. And you can tell them, look, I can help you. I can tell you there are things that you can do for yourself that you can actually take control in a positive way and start to do something for yourself and improve your own health. And mentally, that just helps them overall to feel like, yeah, I'm actually doing something and taking control over my life. And that's a big deal. So, one of the things that I tell every single patient that comes by that's had cancer is they need to get this book called Radical Remission by Kellyanne Turner. Very interesting book. So, Kellyanne Turner was a psychologist at a cancer clinic in Chicago, I believe. And over the years, she noticed that they had a lot of stage 3 and 4 cancer patients that came through the clinic, and she would help them psychologically. And over the years, she noticed that some of them would get out of the clinic alive, and some of them wouldn't. And so she's thinking, well, what's the big difference between these people that are actually able to survive and then go on to live a healthy life afterwards? And it took her about 5 years, and she actually honed down 75 different common factors between the stage 3 and 4 patients who didn't survive and the ones who cleared the cancer. And in this book called Radical Remission, she identifies either 9 or 10 of them, excuse me, of these characteristics that she goes into detail about, gives patient stories and different things that she witnessed with these patients and in the interviews that she did with them. And what's very fascinating is 7 out of those 9 or 10 characteristics had to do with a positive mental attitude and related to their nutritional routine. So these things that I'm telling you are very simple to do, but they're the things that were the most beneficial to these patients that ended up surviving and having the best outcomes in this cancer clinic. So I tell every patient, go get this book, read it. It's going to give you confidence to help take control of your life and take control of your health again. And then they can go in and with more confidence and deal with everything that's going on in their life. So some specific recommendations. So there are some very specific nutrients that help to improve mitochondrial health. And I call these the foundational nutrients because it just seemed that, so when I started testing patients back in around 2007, 8 for their vitamins and nutrients, all the patients that were ill and had medical issues were deficient in many nutrients. And so I found that these were basically the foundational nutrients that all of them were highly deficient in. And then once we started replacing those nutrients over about 2 months, we would recheck the patients and all their levels would come back up and all the patients would definitely feel a lot better and a lot different. So that was, again, remember, building this foundation of health so that the rest of their health can be built upon that in a strong way. Okay, so the foundational nutrients are the vitamin D and a good, again, 10 to 15,000 units a day. And I'm not a big fan of that 50,000 units once a month, once a week prescription, because I just think it overloads the body all at once. And it's just a good, consistent dose on a daily basis does the job. And EPA DHA is a good omega because omegas are needed for the cell membrane. And they're also needed for the mitochondrial cell membrane, or, well, the mitochondrial membrane. And then a methyl B12 methylfolate, because the methylation process is deeply involved with detoxification and ATP production. CoQ10, that's needed for the mitochondrial electron transport chain to create ATP, big time. So I tell people they need to take at least 300 milligrams of CoQ10 a day. So that's 300. A lot of the CoQ10 is 100 milligrams. I tell them, okay, take 3 of them. You need 3 a day, 300 milligrams. And then a mitochondrial specific multivitamin. That's a good multivitamin that's got all the different vitamins and minerals in it. Now, the next ones are specifically involved with the mitochondrial transport membrane. So acetylcarnitine and alpha lipoic acid. So acetylcarnitine helps to transport in the product of the Krebs cycle. Is it lactate or no, it's not lactate, but whatever is brought into the mitochondria is needed, is the acetylcarnitine is the transport molecule that brings it in. And alpha lipoic acid is involved with the membrane. So again, if those membranes are not in good shape, then you're not going to get good transport and you're not going to get the products you need in so that the mitochondria can actually function well. And then you're not going to get the oxidants out, oxidation products. Phosphatidylcholine is part of the mitochondrial membrane too. And then vitamin E, again, that's a part of the mitochondrial membrane, critical. Vitamin C helps with the getting the, it's an antioxidant. So it helps with the getting rid of the oxidation products. And interestingly enough, melatonin is also an antioxidant. And we all think of melatonin as, it helps people sleep at night, but melatonin is very involved with an antioxidant factor. And so what I'll even have some patients do is they can take up to 9 milligrams of melatonin in the morning. And as long as there's light, they don't go to sleep. It's melatonin works when it becomes dark. And then that's an antioxidant that just helps along with getting rid of the oxidation products from the mitochondrial oxidation phosphorylation. What I found in a lot of over time is there's never ever any one product there's never any one thing that helps people. They have to really address all of these little areas, and they all add up. Okay, finally, quercetin. There's a new syndrome called mast cell activation syndrome. It's got to do with the mast cells are sort of the overseer of the immune system, and the mast cells become hyperactive, and then you have an immune system that now is very hyperactive, and has got no focus, and so therefore it it creates autoimmune problems and things like that. So if you suspect something along those lines, quercetin is very good for. It's an anti sort of not an antihistamine, but it helps to just drive down that hyperactivity. All right. So I'm getting sorry, it's kind of a quick lecture, but we're just about done. So goal number 4, kill the cells. So this is kind of fascinating because this is what you're going to have patients that come to you, and they may not tell you, but they're all looking into these things, these different ways of naturally killing these cells. And one of them is ivermectin, and one of them is fenbendazole, and one of them is Rick Simpson oil. So the ivermectin and the fenbendazole, they seem to be so in the different um, oncology conferences I've been to, they sort of describe those. It's not because there's a parasite that these things are killing that's causing the cancer. It's because it seems that these two products have immune modulating effects. So what happens when a cancer becomes large, it creates an immune storm, a lot of immune system products, a lot of interleukins are created that are highly inflammatory. It's a very highly inflammatory environment, and the immune system is not able to control the situation, and the cancer is able to sort of hide in there and sort of grow and do its thing. So the idea behind the ivermectin and fenbendazole is they're immune modulators, and they help to calm that immune system down, along like what the quercetin does. And as you calm the immune system down, and it's not hunting in every little nook and cranny, and it can start to focus on things, it it can start to do its job as far as dispensing with the cancer. Now, Rick Simpson oil is an interesting thing. Rick Simpson oil is a very highly concentrated THC product, and we're talking about 100 times concentration. It's an oil, and that I've had patients that have used that, and their cancers have basically disappeared. And these have been people that have done combination standard of care treatments and just totally natural treatments. And not sure how it works. It's been around since the 1980s. It got its name from the guy who invented it, called Rick Simpson oil. And it's it's not you can't really get it from a dispensary because I don't think in California they can sell the concentrated THC to the extent that it really should be. But it's you can find patients find it. They find it on like Facebook channels and things like that. And I would be happy to answer any questions. But that's about the end. Let me see. That's the end of the lecture. It's not a long lecture, and it's kind of a simple lecture because I wanted to give people things that are not really technically that you don't need a whole big technical environment to do. You can do this straight in your office, one on one with the patient. And when you've got that patient sitting there, is pretty scared, and a lot's going on in their lives. Their families are bugging them. They're reading up on all kinds of things. And now you can say, look, I have several things that you can do that you can take control of your life. It doesn't need to be complicated. It can be very simple, very straightforward, and then they all have a better outcome in the long run. So, any questions? I would be happy to entertain. Oh, it almost took an hour. Sorry. Okay.
Summer had one in the chat.
Oh, I didn't look at the chat. Hang on.
Are patients taking the RSO orally,
Oh,
smoking
okay. Let me
like
talk about that. Okay. So the RSO is so you can imagine 100 times concentration is not going to be easy to tolerate. So what the patients will do is they'll do it rectally, and they'll take about a gram, which is so what my patients were doing was they would I had a patient that was actually growing this and then concentrating down themselves, and I let them do their thing, and I would just tell my anybody I was interested go talk to them. And the way that they did it was they got the TB syringes without the needles, and then they would draw up the oil. It's a thick oil, and then they would do that rectally at night. And so they would sleep well, and then they
I
would wake
bet.
up and they I bet, right? That and then they wouldn't have the terrible hangovers and
So
uh
they're essentially going to be sleeping through any neurologic effects of
yeah,
the.
so the psychoactive stuff is they're asleep with it. And then the other thing that happens though when they do it rectally is you get first bypass through the liver. And I think that changes the way that the product does anything psychoactively.
Yeah,
So
I
that's
assume though it's being absorbed in like faster than any other way to take
it's
it.
yeah, I have yeah. So in the yeah, and so I've had patients do it rectally. They also so some women with breast tumors, they'll rub it on the skin of the breast tumor.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
Thanks.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Joe, this is Bob Husband.
Yeah.
Um, I just had to sit through a lecture of how to give a lecture, um, and for the residency program. And your lecture is the poster child. You did a great job. You were having not gone through the lecture I just went through.
Wow.
It
Well,
was very
thanks. I
good. Thank you
appreciate
very much.
that.
Not too long. Everything moved nicely. Not too much wordage on your slides.
Yeah, good.
It was a very excellent presentation. Thanks so much.
Good.
And really, I see a lot of cancer patients coming in too, so I will advance this along. And that book you mentioned, which I haven't read,
Oh, it's
um,
a fantastic book. She does.
um,
She's a great storyteller.
yeah, I read because I have to, unfortunately. Radical Remission. It is it's an audio book as well. So I've downloaded that. I'll go through it because I think it will probably be helpful for my patients and
Yeah.
to, go through that.
Yeah. Again, I can't stress enough the idea of giving. I mean, so a lot of what we do is we teach the patients. I mean, that's what doctors do. Um, and so many times the patients come in and they are just they're scared to death, and they've been given this diagnosis and they don't know where to go or what to do. And they've seen the oncologist. They're coming back to you and saying, "Oh my God, this is what's happening," and this is a way that you can, instead of just saying, "Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that," you can say, "Hey, wait a minute. Do you know what? There's things that you can do proactively that you can actually do something to take control of your life." And that's a big deal that Kelly Ann Turner talks about in her book. And the people that actually take control of their life, those are the ones that are the most successful at surviving. So
Yeah, anytime our patients take agency of their process, they seem to do better.
yeah, yeah.
Anything else, guys? Any other questions?
The other thing is I sent Jessica a PDF
Hmm.
of this lecture. So if anybody would like that PDF,
Or the
email
video
Jessica
recording
and
as
she can.
well.
What's that?
Or the video recording as well.
Oh, the video, yeah. But the PDF, you guys can get that PDF and then you can actually hand that to the patient too.
Oh, yeah.
So what I do is I print out something along those lines of that PDF, and I go through it with the patient in front of me, and I'll put notes on there. And if they ask questions, I'll emphasize different things. And then I give that to them at the end of the meeting. It takes about 45, 50 minutes to go through it. And the patients can take that home and go through it. And then that's another thing that they can really sort of mull over and kind of have a piece of paper that they can look at and deal with down the road. And I'm available. My information's at the beginning. If anybody's got questions, call me, email me. I'd be happy to answer anything.
What I'm gonna actually do is, since it's in the PDF form, I'm gonna go ahead and send a message to everybody.
Oh, great. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.